Welcome back to the Bayside Fabrication YouTube channel. Today we're focusing on getting this motor finally buttoned up so it can go back into the car. We are going to install a Type S oil pump, and we are going to install all brand new timing components. So I hope you enjoy it. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. And here we go. All right guys, check this out. So I have my oil pan pulled back off. Now they got my turbo drain and everything installed, as you can see it. And I was debating about doing this or not, and I decided it's probably a good idea to do this, and I'm going to put my RSX Type S oil pump on here. Now this is a balanced stock oil pump setup that I guess has issues once you start revving it past stock red lines. So what we're gonna do is get this out of here, and what we have to do is pull the pump off, pull the windage tray off, pull our crank pulley off, and pull our timing cover off. Okay, so now we have our timing cover off. We're just inspecting it and everything looks good. I don't see anything out of the ordinary. I decided I'm gonna install our 50-degree cam gear as well, because we have to pull the timing chain off, reset the timing and everything. So I might as well just do this while we're there. It's super easy to do. And then here's our parts for the oil pump. So here's the actual oil pump itself, which we are gonna pull apart and port, and I'll show you that momentarily. We have our windage tray here, and then we have our oil pump guides and chain right here. So we should have all the parts we need to make this happen. I just need to pull the valve cover off so we can get to access to this timing gear. So before we do any of the work on the motor, I want to get this oil pump ported, and I'm going to show you how that looks. So this is a common thing most people do with these, and I'll show you what the issue is. I don't know if you can see, but do you see these sharp edges right here on this port, on this hole? Well, essentially what we're going to need to do is just make this flow in here a little better, and we can open this up, this whole area up slightly as well. And essentially what we're doing is just creating a nice smooth transition for oil to flow in here. You're supposedly able to pick up a few PSI of oil pressure, so that's going to be definitely good for us, especially if we're running oil coolers and whatnot. Any extra oil pressure is definitely going to benefit us at this stage of the game. So that's really all we're doing. We're going to take our deburring bit and just open this up. So I want to show you the tools real quick that we're going to be using. This is our Milwaukee die grinder. This thing's awesome, and these are the bits that we're going to use to pretty much hog out the majority of the meat. These are especially for aluminum. These small ones here, the small bits, these are usually for steel. And the problem with these is they get clogged up pretty quickly. These create a large cut and they kind of create a rough surface. So what we're going to do is knock it out with the knock out the majority with one of these bits here, and then we'll go over it at the end just to kind of smooth it out with a like a steel or stainless die grinding die bit. So that's what we're doing here, and I'll more than likely use our ball bit here to get things going. Okay, so what we want to do is take a tack or something small and put it in the tensioner here. There wasn't very much tension on that. What I'm going to do is just loosely put these bolts back in so we don't lose track of them. Now that there's pressure off of this thing, all right, now we're gonna pop this, let's pop the whole assembly off here. that oil pump. And we still need to get this pump still modified to fit the K24 A2 block. So what I'm going to do now is put the assembly back together. So here's the pickup, and then here's the pump itself. And what we're going to do beforehand is we're just going to give it a nice healthy dose of oil here. That way, on the initial startup, there's something in it, at least. Just to give that a little bit of lube there. Okay, so you can immediately see the differences between these two setups. And I'm actually gonna weigh one right now versus the other to see how much the balanced one weighs that comes stock versus this one. I know it's gonna be a little, I would say probably 3 or 4 pounds heavier. So we got a little bathroom scale here, and we're going to weigh the factory one. It looks like we're at probably about 9 or 10 pounds. Now let's weigh the Type S. I'm trying to get a fair weight here. Jeez, barely even registering. I would say a pound or two. We'll call it 2 pounds. So just by doing that, you save 7 pounds off the entire motor assembly. So that's pretty good weight savings. 7 pounds right off the bat. I mean, that's as much as an AC compressor or something weighs. So I'm happy with that. So with that being said, the total weight of the motor was 423 pounds. And by shaving off the weight that we have in there, it's now 416 pounds. So I'm happy with that. That's a good bit of information. Okay, so what we're doing here is, as you can see, we have to mill out for this on the block here for the bolts and the centerpiece. Now, I just took a measurement, and the bolts are approximately 12 millimeters above the deck. And this centerpiece right here is approximately 11 millimeters. So we're gonna cut into here, but I'm gonna skim it all at about 10 or 11 millimeters at first, and then we'll just knock it off a little bit for the bolts there, and that should be all the clearance we need. All right, guys, check it out. Now, you don't need a mill or anything like that. You can just do this with hand tools. But it came out sweet. I just beveled the edges with a hand Dremel, and that's the clearance for that. All right, so the next step is to get this oil plug out. And I tried using a pick to get it out, and that's not happening. So now we're gonna try to thread a screw in here and pop it out that way. Let's see if that works. Oh, there it goes. So that didn't need much motivation. So now this has to be replaced with a bolt. So we'll get the correct size for that, which I'll tell you in about 2 seconds. And we'll just cap that off with a little bit of sealant. A lot of guys use Honda Bond, but gray Permatex and stuff works just as well. Debatable. I'm sure you guys will let me know, you Honda Bond fans, but the gray high temp Permatex works really well as well. All right, in this case, this is what we're using to plug this hole up. This is a M8. So I can do this one-handed. M8 by 1.25 pitch bolt, and we just threw some gray Permatex on it, and we are just buttoning up these threads here so no oil can get past. That's that. Nice and easy. So that plugs off that hole. All right, guys, next step here is to just tighten down this oil baffle. All right. Okay, so I just started getting a little ahead of myself here because the timing chain has to go on before this goes on completely. All right, so we got the motor back upright, and it is time to do the 50-degree timing gear. Now, if y'all aren't familiar, the stock K24A2 can only advance up to 25 degrees. This can advance up to 50. So this is a very common thing that guys do, and you can really get aggressive with your cam phasing. So what we're gonna do is pop this one off, put this one on, and then we're gonna be just waiting for parts at that point. I was inspecting all these guides and everything. They look okay, but you know, it's $400 to just do all the timing, upper timing stuff right. And it sucks to have to spend that after, you know, I thought I was overspending money, but it's just the right thing to do. So that's what we're doing here. We're just gonna spend the money. We're gonna get all brand new stuff, and we're gonna know 100% that it's gonna be legit. So we'll get the Nutbuster 5000 here. Works like a charm every time. So this is just as simple as once you get the nut off, pop that out. You see there's a little dowel there that lines up with that notch. That's our old one, our RBC. All right, let's check this out. This gear gets torqued down to 83 foot-pounds of torque, which we have our torque wrench set to. And what I did here is, you'll notice these cams have a spot where you can grab it as a hex. Actually, I believe it's like a 21 millimeter. I didn't have the right size, but I was able to just get an adjustable on there. And then you can see I just have this block set up so we can get this. There it is, 83 foot-pounds. So, a couple days later, we have all of our timing components in. Now, all of our timing guides and stuff are all brand new. And it's funny, after comparing the old ones versus the new ones, I mean, the old ones were, I don't know if these were necessary. Let's put it that way. But we're here, we're doing it. The side guides were like 100-something bucks. The chain was, honestly, I don't even remember how much this stuff was, but it's all came out to be $400. So it's not the cheapest stuff because it costs as much as this entire motor did. However, now we have it. It will be good for as long as we're gonna own this car, and we will transfer all the stuff over to the built motor when that time comes. Now, I've been giving it some thought on this timing gear, and I'm going to reuse the spare one I had with our intact dowel on this motor. I talked to Jamie from PFI Speed. I talked to Kyle, and Jamie has definitely seen this before happen on high horsepower applications. Kyle has never personally had it happen to him, but he's heard of it. And those guys are pushing 1,000 horsepower stuff all the time. So I think what I'm gonna do is, just because I don't have the time right now and the tools to create a keyway in this gear, I'm just gonna pop this sucker on, and I think it's just gonna be just fine. So we'll keep that the way it is, and we'll know for sure that that is good. And then for our built motor, I'm definitely gonna get the keyway thing sorted out so we don't have to worry about this situation happening again. Okay, so right now I got my 50-degree VTC gear on, and we're just gonna pop off our guides. We're gonna re-pop off the oil pan that we had on for just keep dirt and crap out of it. And we're going to throw all the new stuff on, get all the timing marks lined up, which I'm going to show you, and just get this buttoned up and done. All right, guys, now to set the timing on this. So as you can see, there's two little timing marks here on the cams, And there's two little dots. There's one right here. And this one's easy to see because it's nice and clean. And that is, these are our timing marks. Now let me show you what we're trying to accomplish here. So on the top, you see this chain here has these gold markings. We want to center these on those two dots. Now to help us do that, there's a little trick that you can do because, just so you guys can see, you know, we can move this around and there's a little play there. On the back side here, there's these holes. One right there, which I already have a drill bit in, a 3/16 drill bit, slides right in that hole and locks it. And on this one, the same thing. I'm gonna try to do it one-handed here. There we go. All right, so now our cams are locked in that position. You can also see, even though it's locked, there's still a little bit of wiggle room, which is okay. So now, what we want to do is we take our brand new chain here. So this is what you want. You want these marks to correspond in the center of these two gold markings. And then on the bottom here, there's another mark that corresponds with this notch right here, which we'll get to in just a second. But as you can see here, we have them, you know, lined up, but this hasn't clipped in yet to the chain. So what, and it's totally okay to do. We're just gonna give this just a little, there we go. Boom. The bottom one lines up here, which it should. All right, now it's tensioner time. So what we're gonna do, just keep tension on the tensioner side of the guide. You can see that comes with a thumbtack in there. And once we release that thumbtack, this whole thing is spring-loaded and will release the chain tensioner and put permanent tension on that. So before we pull the pin on the grenade here, we're just gonna make sure all of our marks are lined up, which they are. Everything looks good. Bam. So what this is here on this tensioner, there's a serrated shaft on here, and it essentially just clicks. So once it gets tighter, it just locks it into place. So it always keeps it tight. So even as the chain stretches over time, it will keep pushing. And if it gets enough slack, it will hit the next tooth essentially, tighten up to the next level. So it does have a way to compensate there. All right, so the last piece of the timing puzzle is to install our upper chain guide, preferably not upside down like I just did. And that's gonna be that. So we're just gonna tighten these guys down. This will put a little pressure on that top guide. And that's simply how you set the timing on one of these. It's super easy to do. Now the next thing to do on this is to reinstall your crank sensor trigger wheel, which is here. Now it's clearly labeled outside, so that goes on, faces the outside. So that's gonna go on there. Now the next thing to do is to reinstall our cover and our oil pan. And while we're here, we're gonna pop out our drill bits that we're using to hold the cams. And guys, that is pretty much it. So we're gonna go in here, reseal with some Permatex Gray or Honda Bond, if that's what you prefer. We're gonna reseal the cover, the oil pan, and that's gonna be the last time these go on. Pop the valve cover on, and this sucker's ready to go back in the car. So it's pretty simple as that. This is the first time I've done it. I've watched YouTube videos on how you do it, and it's all super, super easy. I'm gonna level you guys, the engineers at Honda, whoever came up with this motor and this whole timing system and everything, other than that stupid dowel pin, which they could have just beefed up a little bit, just added another pin to it. Absolutely brilliant. I mean, this is a brilliant motor. It really is. It's super simple. It's very hard to screw up. And I mean, anybody can do work on these. All right, here's our finished product, sort of. We're gonna be finished for this video, and I appreciate y'all watching. On the next one, I have decided that I'm going to baffle the oil pan, so I am going to pop that back off, and I'll explain the reasons why, but mainly oil starvation and hard cornering for the Honda guys are experiencing. Well, that's gonna be an issue on this car, because now the engine's mounted the opposite way than the Honda Acura crowd. So I'm gonna have that issue from front to back. So under acceleration and braking, which is a lot more dramatic. So we're gonna be tackling that next and figuring out a good way to baffle this thing that works. But for now, I appreciate y'all watching and stay tuned for the next one. We'll see you next time.